There's a moment in every fading empire when the rest of the world stops waiting for permission. And this week, Europe quietly triggered that moment, not with tanks, not with sanctions, but with a financial misstep so large that Beijing, Riyadh, New Delhi all took notice at the exact same time. Because what Europe did wasn't just a policy move, it was a signal that the West's most sacred advantage, custodial trust, may no longer be unquestioned. Everyone can feel it. The headlines are disjointed, the leaders sound defensive, and Western institutions, once treated as unshakable, now seem strangely improvisational. But beneath all that noise sits this real story. Europe just rattled the foundation of the Western-led financial order, and the global South is already adjusting its plans accordingly. Now, the fight over a 200 billion euro loan for Ukraine isn't just about Ukraine. It isn't about Russia. It's about whether the Western safe deposit box, the place where nations park their wealth, is still trustworthy in a world where China, BRICS, and the Gulf states are building alternatives. And that's why this moment is bigger than Europe realizes or the world realizes, because global power doesn't shift when China makes a speech or when BRICS announces a new bank. Power shifts when the West makes a mistake. So Euroclear, the quiet behemoth of European finance, is sitting on roughly 185 billion euros of Russian sovereign assets, immobilized, not confiscated though. And that legal distinction, that tiny technical nuance, is the pillar that keeps trillions of foreign reserves flowing into Western custody. Now, if Europe mishandles this, if it creates a precedent where sovereign assets become political assets, then every major player outside the West, from China to Saudi Arabia to Indonesia, begins accelerating the same question. Do we still trust the West with our money, or is it time to move it eastward? And if that shift begins, it doesn't unfold over decades. It's going to unfold overnight. Now, Belgium understands this. The ECB understands this. Christine Lagarde absolutely understands this. Euroclear isn't a European institution. It's a global one. 40 trillion euros flow through its vaults. It is the circulatory system of Western financial power. But now that system is cornered by its own contradictions. Europe wants to issue a massive Ukraine loan. Belgium refuses unless every EU member guarantees it. And international courts may intervene, Russia may sue, and Euroclear, sitting on immobilized assets it can't touch, has no way to escape the blast radius. It's like watching the world's safest vault suddenly pulled into a geopolitical crossfire. Now, Belgium's prime minister basically spelled it out. We're not the ones paying the bill if Russia wins a lawsuit. That's why Belgium wants risk sharing and legal clarity, because the cost of being liable isn't financial, it's existential. Think of the EU as a group project where one student is holding everyone's savings, and the teacher suddenly announces, if something goes wrong, you're financially responsible for the entire class. Nobody's going to volunteer for that role. It would be insane. But this crisis isn't just about that liability. It's about precedent. Because even in the darkest moments of the 20th century, even during global war, sovereign reserves held abroad were sacred. Now, break that tradition now, and the Western financial system becomes a political instrument rather than a neutral one. And the instant that happens, Beijing will say, this is why we built alternatives. Riyadh's going to say, this is why we diversified. And BRICS will say, This is why the multipolar era has already arrived. It's like a global tenant watching their landlord change the lease mid-contract. They don't protest, they just start looking for a new landlord. And that's exactly what's happening right now. China sees an opening to accelerate yuan-based clearing. The Gulf sees an opportunity to move more reserves into BRICS-linked banks. And Africa and Southeast Asia see a moment to rebalance their exposure. Not because they're anti-West, because they're pro-self-preservation. When the referee bends the rules, the players stop trusting the game. And Europe is bending the rules it once insisted were unbreakable. Now, the EU claims its legal frameworks are intact. The ECB insists its mandate is unchanged. Belgium refuses to stand alone, but the deeper truth is unavoidable. The West no longer speaks with one voice. And once coherence breaks, authority is going to follow. So look at the political fog swirling around this decision. Peace proposals being floated, Zelensky reportedly slow-walking U.S. offers, Germany is skeptical, France is posturing, and Britain demanding guarantees no one could possibly enforce. Now, every capital moving in its own direction with its own incentives. A continent making its most consequential financial decisions in decades without a unified strategy. Now, that's not governance. That's not a governance issue. That's a signal of fragmentation. Imagine a symphony orchestra with world-class musicians, each following a different conductor. The instruments are brilliant. The sound is chaos. And in that chaos, the global South sees something the West still refuses to admit. Western power isn't declining because others are rising. Others are rising because Western power is unsteady. Now, if Europe mishandles this, Euroclear becomes a symbol, not of Western strength, but of Western unpredictability. And once unpredictability takes root, trust evaporates faster than capital. Now, the United States and the EU haven't dominated global finance because they were the biggest economies. They dominated it because the world believed the rules were fixed and that the lock on the vault would never change. But this week, for the first time in decades, the world heard that lock rattle. And here's the truth behind the truth. The West's greatest weapon was never its military. It was the perception of reliability. Because if Brussels breaks that perception, even a little, the shift away from Western custodianship doesn't begin, it's going to accelerate towards BRICS, towards Beijing, towards the global South's emerging financial architecture. So what do you guys think? Do I have this all right? Do I have it all wrong? Put in the comment section below. I look forward to reading and replying to your guys' comments. And thank you guys again so much for watching me here on The Baseline. Okay, cheers everybody.